We are talking about this big political news tonight.
So we just heard the president speak, President Biden speak, since the first time since he announced he was not running for president any longer in this 2024 election. We got to see him face to face, basically, as he addressed America right there.
It sounded like his voice was a little bit strained. He was reading a speech off the prompter. Interesting, though, sort of the line that stood out was this idea that he was not going to let his personal ambition get in the way of defending democracy. He was making the case that he thought that he deserved a second term. But by saying it that way, essentially what he's saying is he didn't think he was going to win. And he was afraid that that ambition of him wanting a second term could lead to a Trump presidency, so he made the strategic decision to step aside. Didn't exactly use those words, but that's essentially what he was hinting at there.
And didn't really say why in specifics. He did say it was time to pass the torch to a, quote, new generation, fresh, younger voices. He also ran through a litany of accomplishments under his administration, in which Kamala Harris was every step of the way part of that.
And it could not have been an easy speech for him to give as somebody who's wanted to be president for some 50 years, finally in that place. Clearly, we know he was pushed pretty hard by a lot of powerful folks in the Democratic Party into this decision. But he did make that decision. And as we've seen, Kamala Harris has really kind of taken off in the last few days when it comes to fundraising and when it comes to some popular support. And we'll talk more about that race right now.
Yeah, he called her experienced, tough, and capable. All right, so the electorate appears energized since Vice President Kamala Harris became the likely Democratic nominee for president. New polls show her neck and neck with Republican Donald Trump.
Fox 7's Christy Fajardo is live in Brentwood, which, by the way, is the hometown of Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff, with a look at the matchup. Christy.
Yeah, that's actually why we're here, because it is their hometown. But this has been an unprecedented election year, and we spoke to one political expert who says generally this time in the election year, the campaigns are in full swing. But now, former President Donald Trump is having to reset his campaign, and Vice President Kamala Harris is just starting hers.
It's a monumental shift.
Sarah Sadwani, an assistant professor of politics at Pomona College, says the July surprise has both campaigns scrambling.
The Trump campaign had a real focus on Joe Biden's age. That is now a moot point because now the oldest candidate in this race is Donald Trump. And so he's going to have to reconfigure his campaign and his messaging.
She expects former President Trump to continue swinging at the vice president.
She is a radical left lunatic who will destroy our country.
And make a play for Biden's Rust Belt supporters who may not be as enthusiastic about Kamala Harris.
Certainly the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself is a master at making personal attacks on all sorts of people. And we saw that back in 2016. We've seen it in 2020. We've seen it over and over again.
But Professor Sadwani cautions a Harris nomination.
Across our nation, we are witnessing a full-on assault on hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights.
Jeopardizes Trump's outreach to voters of color, pointing out she won over the Latino community in her California races. Then there's a black male vote that Trump was also hoping to expand.
This will definitely throw a wrench in that effort. For the last 60 years, the vast majority of the black voting community has supported Democrats. And most certainly we saw the black community come out in strong support for President Barack Obama when he ran in 2008. And no doubt Kamala Harris, being a black woman, will make a strong appeal to members of her own community.
There's also a lot of talk about Kamala Harris being a woman. We did ask Professor Sadwani about that. She says she believes that it will play very differently in 2024 than it did in 2016 when Hillary Clinton ran for president because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Either way, though, she says this is going to be a very, very interesting election year. Live in Brentwood, I'm Christy Fajardo. Let's send it back to you.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talk about President Obama. He still hasn't endorsed Kamala Harris, which is kind of the only major figure who hasn't at this point. So did she have a call on where we're at? Who's leading right now? Is it Harris or Trump?
She believes that it is too soon to tell, but she did say that she believes that Kamala Harris has a lot of strengths. Of course, she believes that President Trump does as well. So she says that this is going to be a very interesting race.
Oh, yes, to say the least.